Please welcome to stage someone who is not a comic lawyer, but an actual lawyer. Josh Gilliland is celebrating 10 years of bow tie law, and he's here to talk about Infinity Law of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Hello, my name is Joshua Gilliland, and like many people in this room, I still believe in heroes. My favorite Marvel movies are Thor Ragnarok and Captain America Civil War, because it's what heroes do, and I'm with you to the end of the line, are good ways to live. Now let's take a look at some of the legal issues that we have seen over the past 10 years from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First up, Captain America Civil War. And Kino, come back.
Damn you, Kino!
Why? Okay. So, are the Sokovia Accords constitutional? And let's talk about that, because if you've seen Captain America Civil War, and none of the slides are working, so I'm a little upset about that. Get to work. Now, for those who remember from the movie, the Sokovia Accords require anyone with superpowers to sign away their rights, saying that if we use our powers, we will do so as prescribed by the United Nations. And if we don't sign on the Accords and we use our powers, we can get sent to prison. Now, there are a couple problems with that, because here are the Accords, and this is something that sounds a lot like indentured servitude based upon somebody's abilities. Very problematic. The other part of this that's dangerous is, I don't think anyone took a common law class who wrote the story, because they talk about all of these countries ratifying, signing to these accords, but they leave out a key element. The United States Senate. It takes a 2/3 vote for a treaty to become effective. That means it's like our law. However, if we have a treaty that violates our laws, that can't become our law. That's like saying, all right, this law requires everyone of Irish descent to become farmers or engineers, and if you don't do that, you're going to jail. No. Doesn't work like that. So something that's challenging. Now the other part of this is bad is it's a giant constitutional nightmare when someone breaks the law, because somehow they magically built a giant submarine prison where they keep people, and there's something funny about this. There's no lawyers or judges. People are taken into custody and dropped off on a giant prison ship. So problems with that. Writ of habeas corpus. If you get brought into custody, you get to go before a judge. They skip that. Other part of this, the Fourth Amendment protects you from arbitrary arrests. Next part, Fifth Amendment, due process, not present when you're taken and put on a giant submarine that submerges and you never get to see anyone again. Other thing, that right to counsel, that pesky thing where lawyers get to defend you. Now, we have a large body of case law from the 1930s up through the Gideon and the 60s that give us this right to counsel, because it's in the Constitution, because the state can't prosecute people without those who are being accused having the right to an attorney. A side issue with this, Ant-Man and Hawkeye allegedly are on house arrest for a couple years as part of a plea deal. Did they have attorneys? Were there judges present in order to ratify those plea deals? I don't think so, which would make those plea deals invalid. And of course the big one, the Eighth Amendment. There's a reason we don't have prison ships in our country. During the Revolutionary War, the British put American POWs on prison ships, and they were a descent into hell. Over 11,500 Revolutionary War heroes died on those things. When we think of the Eighth Amendment, it's because of those prison ships. There's a reason why we've never even toyed with the concept, because there's a large body count from those who died at the hands of the British. So let's talk about a fun issue. Spider-Man's a minor. Tony Stark takes Spider-Man to Germany to fight the greatest soldier that ever lived, and to Titan to fight the most dangerous alien of all time. There's some problems with that. First off, there's child endangerment and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Now, Peter is with Tony because of a school internship. If you are employing a child to do things that break the law, such as being a vigilante, or do things that could endanger the life of that child, you're contributing to the delinquency of the child, and that's not okay. Now, the other thing that's a problem, Peter doesn't have a passport yet, and he doesn't get a permission slip from Aunt May. Now, what would that look like? What could that possibly look like when you think about it? So we're going to go take on Captain America, Falcon, the guy who can fly, Scarlet Witch, who can manipulate reality, and Hawkeye is an expert shot, and Ant-Man. What could possibly go wrong with that? That maybe a guardian or parent wouldn't be cool with signing. So Aunt May has a pretty good action against Tony for taking Pete to get beat up in Germany. So let's talk about abandoned property. So, go back one. It's a little weird, slides are disappearing. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie that taught me it's okay to love again. So, this movie has Peter Quill, Star-Lord, exploring Morag in a very Raiders of the Lost Ark type adventure to find the Power Stone. Now, is it his? Well, I think so. Because property is about a bundle of sticks and being able to control that bundle of sticks. That's the old case law description of property. Well, abandoned property is abandoned. That means nobody claims ownership to it. So going to an abandoned planet where everything's abandoned, it's all free game at that point. So Quill was in his absolute right to take that because no one had possession or control of the Infinity Stone. So, it's funny that the lawyer would love the movie about the doctor superhero, but it's because the doctor superhero first gains his superpowers by reading, so yes. The other part of this is he saves the world with contract law. I literally cheered when Dr. Strange says, Dormammu, I've come here to bargain. I cheered. My ex-girlfriend looked at me like I was weird. Reason that didn't work out. So, this is how it works. Offer, acceptance, consideration are the basic terms of a contract. Now, there's something called third-party beneficiary contracts. So, Cassius, who is the zealot, who's the bad guy, and he's running around with his henchmen, and he wants to bring Dormammu, and I've always had a tough time saying that name, to Earth and bring hell with him. Funny thing happens with the deal that Strange offers. I will end the time loop if you take the zealots and leave Earth forever. Well, that's exactly what Cassius wants. He wants to go be with the One. So, does that make him a third-party beneficiary? And under the ancient rules of contract law, yes. Come back. Slides. So yes it does. Because, going back to case law from the 1840s, it absolutely does. So it's the red one. Yeah, that one. There we go. So, where one person makes a promise for the benefit of the third person may maintain an action to enforce that promise. So yes, absolutely he's a third-party beneficiary, but because he didn't read the warning labels, he's really not going to like what happens to him. Let's talk about Thor Ragnarok. So, Asgard's destroyed at the end of it. Hela tries to murder most of the Asgardians. There's only a handful left. Would they be refugees under international law? If they came to the United States through a port of entry and said, help us, well, the answer is yes, because they look Norwegian. However, oh, there's more. However, they could show that an emergency refugee status could be given to them because their homeworld's destroyed and they want someplace to go because they're homeless at this point in time. Now, they might want to go to Norway right now, perhaps until January 2021. Things should be okay by then. But in the meantime, settling in Norway is probably a better choice. But how many people here saw Captain Marvel? Really? No fans of Carol? But there's a great issue there with, does this apply to Skrulls? If we determine that there's a Skrull caravan coming from deep space, and it's going to land in Wisconsin, and they're going to try to adversely possess our vacation lake houses, are they refugees, or could we shoot the bastards out of the sky? Because we don't like their kind. They're green. They're going to come here, and they're going to change our demographics, and I didn't vote for that. As somebody who has that view, here's my advice to you. Grow a soul. Yeah, they're refugees because the Kree are trying to murder them. Being afraid of being murdered, whether it's a beheading or nuclear weapons being dropped on Pofa, means you are fearing for your life. Now, if somebody has a problem with that, take it up with the Mother of Exiles. She's the big green statue on Ellis Island. Now, if you think, hey, I don't like them, and if you say that they can come here, I want to make them terrified. So why don't, the Kree are blue, so if I wear a blue hood and try terrorizing them in the middle of the night, is that okay? No. Lady Justice will scale slap you for being a racist bigot committing hate crimes. So no, they're refugees, we're Americans, we're the good guys in this story, and when someone is fearing for their lives and they're oppressed, they come here because it's what we do, because damn it, we're the heroes of the story, not the villains. But that's just me. And that in no way relates to real life. So, because who would sound like a comic book bad guy in government? Really? Well, let's talk about the end of Infinity War. Now, last year at this time, there were children going home in tears after Infinity War, and because they got to see their favorite heroes die. And if you haven't seen Endgame yet, there's no spoilers here other than it's a beautiful film and go. There's a reason why it just made the most money ever. So, but when you look at half of all life dying, that's going to be a nightmare to deal with. So this is why it's really, really, really important to have a will. So, this is what I had to learn in law school. If you die without a will in a community property state like California, and you're married, that's the flow chart to figure out who gets what. I can't break this up because this is everything that works together. Now, if you die without a spouse, it's equally terrifying. Oh. Come on, little guy. It's okay. Take your time. So, that's the flow chart. Now, I'm going to read it. I posted that on the blog. If you need to go take the bar or have a community property exam coming up with estates and wills and trusts, check this out. But yeah, that's a nightmare. So thinking about half of all life dying, is it proportional? That's what we didn't know at the end of Infinity War. Did everybody in San Francisco die? Is Bakersfield okay? How did this balance out? And if you see Endgame, you get an idea on how this balances out. But let's make this local. Let's take a look at San Francisco. with a population of over 870,000. There are 52 judges, and there are several vacancies right now. There are just 2 probate judges. Each probate judge averages about 40 cases a day, so that means countywide there's 80 probate cases a day, which means in a month, counting 22 active court days, over 1,760 probate cases go through the system each month. Well, after the oh, it gets bad. Over 435,000 new probate cases on one day. Now, there are problems with that because that would break the court system. And we don't know how many judges are left. If both probate judges are dead, we just might roll over and go, hell. It's also an issue of whether or not society can get back up after taking a hit that massive. What happens to everyone across the planet who are missing people? And it's not like there are bodies, which means getting death certificates is a bitch. Do you have to wait 7 years, and that way all the people who have vanished can be declared dead because they've been missing 7 years? So are you just in limbo for the amount of time that elapses between Infinity War to Endgame? Maybe. Well, let's talk about something that I think is important. How to prosecute Thanos. Now, I believe in the rule of law. Someone who murders half of all life commits what lawyers would call genocide. Now, we've dealt with bad guys before, and no, don't get me wrong. I can sleep at night knowing Bin Laden didn't get a trial, even though I wanted that SOB to be put on trial for what he did. But the fact that he got carried out in a body bag doesn't bother me. I still did want that trial, though. Which then brings us to being able to talk about how we would legally handle prosecuting Thanos. Because Thanos did a lot of bad things. Well, luckily we have experience with this, which is sad but useful. We had a lot of prep time leading up to the end of World War II. There was the London Charter, there was the Moscow Proclamation, all of which formed what would eventually be the Nuremberg War Crimes Trial. The trials were going to be 4-judge tribunals hearing these cases, and there's an entire metrics for how this is set up. Now, Thanos can be prosecuted with a whole bunch of crimes. Crimes against peace, war crimes for killing civilians, because he goes to planets and just kills half of them, because that's what he does. And then crimes against humanity, just wiping out populations with inhumane acts. Yeah, when you kill half a city's population and you make the kids watch, that's inhumane. We don't tolerate that. Now, why would a trial be important? Well, all of those men had either above average IQs or genius level IQs. They were the engineers of Hitler's final solution to the Jewish question. They also decided to target anyone else they found was undesirable and didn't deserve to live for their 1,000-year Reich. Now, Senator Robert Taft, the son of the former president and Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, was an isolationist. He was fine if all of those guys had just been taken behind a barn and shot. That was the way we did it in the 19th century and every other war before. We never put people on trial for the massive crimes that were committed. And we did. Now, that is the United States Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson. He took leave from the court in order to be the chief prosecutor of the Nuremberg War Crimes Trial for the United States. Justice Jackson's opening statement took a full 2 days. It's a damn powerful statement to read. And here's a clip, because we don't have 2 days to read all of it. Civilization asked whether law is so laggard as to be utterly helpless to deal with crimes of this magnitude committed by crimes of this magnitude by criminals of this order of importance. It does not expect that you can make war impossible. It does expect that your judicial action will put the force of international law, its precepts, its prohibitions, and most of all, its sanctions on the side of peace, so that men and women of goodwill in all countries may have leave to live by no man's leave underneath the law. We've prosecuted monsters before, which in the Marvel Universe would make sense to treat Thanos that way. Now it's problematic given the universe and coming up with a judicial proceeding that would make sense. But just killing him behind the barn isn't necessarily the right option, because that's revenge and it's not justice. And that's why we've put everyone who we could catch who was behind 9/11 on trial. We did take out a whole bunch with drones, and that doesn't bother me, but we've had trials because it's how we work as a civil society. Law is about justice, not exacting revenge. And with that, any questions? Woman in the white sweater. Yes, you.
Wouldn't it be the case with your Doctor Strange example that with the Zealots lack standing pursuit is really incidental and not intended for permanent adherence?
Okay, I heard the first part, but not the part where you got to the zealots. Can you say it a little louder?
Wouldn't the religious zealots lack standing because they're only incidental third-party beneficiaries?
I don't think so, because they were.
Question?
To repeat the question, are the zealots unintended third-party beneficiaries because they're not exactly named? Maybe. Casalis is definitely named, so he's absolutely in that category. As for unintended, the zealots are known. I think they're a known category. They got the dead eye thing going on, so I think it would work, but good question and definitely worth a blog post. Yes, sir.
So I think in Captain America, there's the argument made by some general that because Captain America was produced by a chemical made by the government, that his body belongs to the government.
So the question is Captain America government property because of the super soldier serum? No! That's indentured servitude. So the fact that people volunteer for medical experiments doesn't mean that they sign away their civil rights and civil liberties. Moreover, for those who served in World War II, there was a specific amount of time that they had to serve. And being in ICE for over 75 years, he passed that. So he gets lots of back pay and should be good to go. Yes, sir, in the green with glasses.
I understand your opposition to imprisonment on a submersible island. What is your position about the legality of imprisoning people in occupied land on a neighboring country indefinitely?
So, what is my position on imprisoning people in another country indefinitely? Well, a good example could be from the comic book Civil War series, where Reed Richards built a secret maximum prison in the negative zone, and the warden for that was the original Captain Marvel. And there are huge civil rights issues with that because they're skipping the entire judicial process, and if you're a U.S. citizen, you get that process because it's what we know. And we don't want situations where the military are holding people indefinitely in faraway places without due process of law. That's how I would look at it, unless they're an enemy combatant, and then things get complicated. But trials are generally a good thing because that's how we function as a society. Yes, ma'am?
Thank you. So the Marvel Universe is such a wonderful example of lifting up oppressed people. And so as a lawyer who understands how law works in our own city, how do you account for the level of racial bias within the criminal justice system? And when you look at things like the perpetrators of 9/11 and the impact of Sokovia on some Americans now,
with great caution that we don't want to repeat the sins of Manzanar. That if you start generalizing people by race and how they look and thinking that their national origin is probable cause to stop them and harass them, that's the abandonment of our way of life. And I have a big problem with that, as most people of good conscience should. So I hope that answers your question.
One last question.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Is a sunken vessel considered abandoned property? When is a sunken vessel considered abandoned property? Pretty much when it hits bottom, if it's a civilian ship. If it's a warship, it's still property of its government, which is why we get very upset when people go trolling in the Java Sea for U.S. warships for scrap metal, because they're desecrating grave sites of our sailors. It's also why we haven't explored the Bismarck other than looking at it with ROVs. So, with that, thank you.